Sometimes you just have to like let loose a little bit and enjoy. Was it reckless? Yes, very, very reckless. It was at the end. I was at the end, and then like now it's just like, okay, so like, do we go back to mom's house? When you see influencers, just pray for them. They are dying. They are going for events each and every day. They're trying to get more clients because Jan is silent. But when the jobs are there, people are making sweet money. People are making a lot of cash, and it's great. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barack. Last week, we talked with the Madison Assurance CEO, Ngaruya, who told us about the different money things that he considers when he's taking on jobs at senior CEO level. I hope you're able to pick up one or two things from there. Today, we have a totally different episode from a totally different scope, different industry, from the creative space. I guess a lot of people refer to it as like the gig economy or whatever. And we have Jayson, aka JayTakeAPic, in the house with us today. He is a lifestyle content creator now full time.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing to make his money. So I'm hoping that he can tell us how all these content creators make enough money to go to all these fancy restaurants and good trips and, Lamus and Malindis and the likes.
It's a good life.
It's a good life, yeah. Yeah, so hopefully you'll be able to tell us all about that.
Yeah.
And so the first question I'm going to ask you, which we actually talked about before we had this conversation, is who are you?
I told you. You're going to give me an existential crisis.
Yeah.
I would consider myself a marketing maverick. I've been in the marketing industry for a very long time. Started my social media journey when I lost my first job, which was maybe like 7 years ago. And I found the social media world very interesting. And I decided to take a gander, got my first job as a social media manager, and then worked my way up now to where I ended up in my last company that I worked in, which was in events, which now sparked a whole different kind of energy inside of me that kind of saw events in the Nairobi space as a very interesting way to go and kind of led me into this space where I am, where I host events, I manage events, and I do content primarily full time now.
Okay, so let me actually sort of go down that existential narrative and ask, is it interesting, or how often do you define yourself as your job or what you do, when defining like who you are?
I think almost every day, to be very honest.
Yeah.
I feel like I've always been put in a particular box and kind of never been able to move from that particular space that I'm in. So, as I said, I also do events. So one of the things I've done in events is emceeing. I've never been able to move into a more corporate, well, I've done corporate, but then not more corporate space. So I'll always do like the, oh my God, guys, are you having a good time? And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hype people up. I want to have actual conversations with people, introduce CEOs and such like things. But I've been put in that box. And then in a sense, I've defined myself based off that. So sometimes I call myself the fun MC and I'm like, no, but I want to be the serious guy. But my job has always kind of defined how my brain works. And so that's why when you asked me if I define myself and I told you I define myself as a lifestyle content creator, I prefer that because it gives me the space to really allow myself to like play around, be in the food space, be in the fashion space, be in the, if I want to go to a hotel, it's, it's a whole different ballgame in that side. Yeah.
Okay. And who then are you outside of what it is that you do? And the reason I'm asking that is, okay, so if you're looking at an individual in a wholesome sense, I mean, is it healthy to purely be defined by your work or what it is that you do, or especially you defining yourself as what it is that you do? Yeah.
To be honest, there's one thing I don't understand, and I've never understood since I was like very young in the work culture, is work-life balance. It's an unfortunate thing, which I'm working through, and I feel like everybody says this in therapy. I've worked in very high pressure jobs that never really allowed me to kind of. I've taken up my laptop in a club before, and this was before COVID. Just before COVID happened. I remember being in. I will have to say club names.
Yeah.
Mercury.
It's no longer there.
Oh yeah, that's true. I remember being in Mercury and I removed my laptop and my best friend at the time was just like, "What are you doing? Like, I need to understand." Like, and I was like, "No, but I need to send this." So in a sense, I've never been able to detach what work is and who I am. Quite recently, I'm learning how to do things like rest. Because as a full-time content creator, everything is content. Everything. Like if I go on a holiday, the first thing I do is, the way influencers wake up and then the camera is right there and I pretend I've woken up. And that's how my brain, in a sense, has always worked. I'm trying to learn how to detach the two things. I'm yet to go on a holiday where I actually rest. I don't know what that looks like. But I mean, I don't think it's healthy, but I think it's it's a way that I've kind of structured my life, and now I'm kind of slowly unlearning to do some of these small things, like just take a breather and take a rest. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so you seem like, I mean, if you're talking about pulling out your laptop in a club, social gathering, so to speak, it seems like you're very, or would seem to be very committed about working and getting certain things done and have like a relatively high work ethic.
Yeah.
Where do you think you got that from? Was that from your folks? Was that from the upbringing? Like, where did that come from? Fear of poverty.
It's actually a fear of poverty. That is so interesting that you brought that, because I was thinking about it. Then I was just like, that fear mentality of poverty is such a huge thing for me. I've watched my parents go bankrupt when I was not that young. Actually, I was maybe like 11. Now that I'm 22, I wish. When I was around 11, I watched my dad go bankrupt, and he declared bankruptcy, and it was so eye-opening because we hadn't come from wealth. I feel like my dad is a very self-made man, and it's always been so interesting to watch how he's done everything, because he rebuilt. And watching that moment, I remember seeing my mom like not doing well. She was sad, she's crying. Things were really tough, and I was just like, I never want to be in this particular situation ever. And then I saw my dad go out of his way to rebuild himself, and I was like, okay, so it's hard work. It's either hard work or manibe. But from this guy, it looks like hard work is the one thing that's really pushing him to get to where he is currently. So that fear of mentality, it's a very real thing.
Yeah.
It's a very real thing.
And question. And this actually, I have two questions from that.
Yeah.
But the first question I'll ask you is actually from the interview I had with Rama here, where he talked about during his separation, the process of his separation, and asking him how he went through that without being selfish and things like that. And he said that if scarcity mentality hits you, then you become an absolute monster, because you're like, I'm never going to make this again. So my question to you, that in first regard, is, do you feel like you then have scarcity mentality? And by that I mean you want to keep everything that you possibly can, because you don't think that it's going to be found or easily findable in different places.
Okay. So the way I'd answer that question is, in 2020, as I told you, I've lost my job before.
Yes.
That's a story that I've told so many people, because I think losing your job is like a rite of passage, to be very honest. And for me as a high achiever, it was gut-wrenching. It was...
Why did you lose your job?
I was in the most... I was in a terrible space in terms of the job I was doing. I was working for a big company, technology company in Nairobi, obviously. And I tried to get out of the role that I was in. As I told you, marketing has always been my life. And I was doing something that was such a pivot that every day was just such a chore. And one day HR came and asked me like, okay, can you have a discussion? And the conversation at the time was, will you take cash and leave, or do we frustrate you and you stay and then you quit yourself? And I said to myself, what?
Was it as frank as that?
Yeah, it was actually. It was. If I see that guy right now, to be honest, I would give him a hug, because I feel like it changed a lot of things in terms of how I have conversations even right now. But it was actually as frank as that. And as young as I was in my career, I feel like it was... He could have been sweeter. He could have been kinder. I feel like everybody just deserves some kindness. And he didn't give me that. But I feel like that thought of having that money at that time, well, I was just like, it played back into my scarcity mentality, because I was just like, oh my God, this is a lot of money. Let me take it. Let me actually just like, let me keep it to myself and then see what I can be able to do with it. Then from there, actually, that's how I ended up I've started several businesses in this Nairobi. I used to sell jewelry and phone cases. And I can actually say I was actually a very good seller. I had a really good business, and my mom actually helped me, because my mom is also really good at business. She really helped me, I guess, like market to her friends, to my friends. She helped me wake up in the morning, because like when there's nobody keeping me on the clock. She'd be like, excuse me, it's time to get up. You need to post on social media. You need to get your stuff together.
Yeah.
Because like you have a business you're supposed to be running right now. Yeah. So wait, I lost my trail of thought.
Yeah. The question was around the scarcity mentality and I guess how.
Yes. So that was the first time now when I lost my job.
Yeah.
So now the second time was COVID. Now I am a very good saver, and I mean like. And sometimes I think it plays on the scarcity mentality thing. Because I will go out of my way to find new investment things to do. But I'm a casual when it comes to investments, because I'll do things like bonds. I'll do things that are very long term, but very low risk. But which means there's a lot of money that's been stacked up.
Yeah.
So 2020 happened, I think, to the whole entire world. And I wasn't really afraid until I was afraid. Because I was working in a company that had been hit by COVID as well. So which meant that I had just been poached at the time. My salary initially was cut by half. And this half was being prorated. There are no influencer jobs. I was in a state where I'm just like, there's no money coming in, so which means I need to start removing cash from my account. And I started removing cash. But there's this thing that happened during COVID that was very interesting. Tulikuwa tunakula bash. Tulikuwa tunakula bash. And it wasn't, you're in the house. If somebody says, okay, Sabasi, let's go to Nani's house. You're bulk shopping because now you have to, like there's so much money you're bleeding out, but you're not making back. That I was just like, what? So I remember at the time I was with a particular bank, and I went to the account, my fixed deposit account. Fixed deposit, you don't touch. And I remember I removed my last 30,000. That day, I remember I went to, because, you gotta treat yourself, you're sad. I was in town and I went to Snow Cream. And I had an ice cream. First, I'm very lactose intolerant. So, in my head, I was just like, this is masochism. This is a sad day. You deserve better. And I remember I just sat there and I said to myself, okay, we need to pivot. You can only be sad for so long because there's nobody actually coming to save you. There's nobody who's going to take care of you. Because I have this problem where I do not like to ask for help. So in my head, I was just like, it's time to take yourself out of this situation. And I remember with that 30K, I changed a couple of things I was doing with myself. Fortunately, my landlord was actually very kind, and he told us that we can be able to pay rent when we can, etc. And that's when I was just like, I remember sitting down with my friend. She's called Elizabeth. And we're just like, okay, Sabasi, what companies are we going to reach out to? Because we need to do influencer work again. Because the influencer space had now opened up again because there were not many spaces for guys to be able to advertise.
Right.
Apart from influencers
Right,
and their
right,
content.
right.
And I remember reaching out to 1, 2, 3 people, and I got 2 solid jobs. Let me tell you, things were tight. I covered the whole entire belt like this because I had to make sure now, like, I had to replenish the supplies
That you had drained.
that I had drained.
Right.
And that balance between getting my mind back into like, okay, we're not poor. We're not poor. We can be able to eat. Like, I was eating, yes, but like just that thing for, could this be your last, before you have to ask for help? Because fortunately, I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are willing and able to help. But in my head, I was just like, I want to be the one to save myself. It's not healthy. I have very many unhealthy habits.
Right.
But just that having to save myself was a big thing for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me actually relate that back to, I guess, when you're saying your family, your dad, your mom, or your dad's going through bankruptcy.
Yeah.
What's the difference between what you experienced then and what you're experiencing as you're removing your last 30K from the bank in 2020? So, like, I guess as a child and vis-a-vis what you're actually going through.
I would say that's a tough one. Because I don't think much changed. I didn't see my dad asking for help, and I think that was a lot of what it was for me.
But what was life like at home, like at that point now? And how did you even know that he was going through?
Oh no,
bankruptcy?
let me tell you, my parents have always been very honest. Like I'm those kids who from a young age, like when I wanted to go out, my mom would just be like, "You wanna go? Just as long as you tell me where you are, how long you're gonna be there." So we've always had that honesty that has always been built in the family.
Right.
So when things are changing, like when this TV is being cut, and I'm like, and I was a little chubby kid, and I'm just like, why are we not eating 3 sausages? And where's my uji? You know, those changes for me, I was just like, I noticed them, and my mom was just like, okay, so Abasi, we're going through a financial. Because there's like a turmoil happening, and I want you to prepare yourself. And I was just like, hey, okay, this is a change. But I don't know, the difference between then and I guess in 2020 was just like, I don't think there's a difference because I just seeing somebody having to rebuild themselves and me having to now just say to myself, like, we got to push on and we got to just like take ourselves out of this situation. I think for me it was a gently similar situation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of now the concept of money, because if you're saying at 11, you're, I guess, understanding your parents are going through a financial issue.
Yeah.
When do you feel like you have your understanding of money? Like a very conscious memory where you're like, even if it's the sausages and saying, oh yeah, now I'm not eating sausages anymore. I'm on something else. And this is as a result of not having money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think actually when I left high school, because my dad now at this point had rebuilt, and he put me on a salary. My dad has always had several businesses, and I wasn't those lucky kids who got an allowance. I had to work for everything. My dad is a tyrant like that. So he's run several businesses like restaurants, car washes, etc. I've been a waiter. I've been a barman. I've done stock taking. So for me, those are things that help me understand like the value of a 5,000 because that cash is the one that I used to use now when I'm going to school. That cash is the one I used to use because, as I told you, my parents never cared if I went out. They're like, you go do your thing, but where are you getting that money from? So that afternoon when I leave USIU and I get into the school bus and I go all the way to my dad's car wash or my dad's restaurant, and I sit there and I'm there till like maybe 9, 10. Then I go home and I do homework. For me, that's actually when I understood like this is actually how capitalism works, and and the value of actually working hard for your money. I think that's when I really got a grasp on what money looked like. Yeah.
And even you're talking about your first salary, what kind of amount of money is he putting you on?
Oh,
I mean,
my
for this
gosh.
quote unquote part-time work that you're doing.
It was like, what, 12K?
Yeah.
It was 12K, but then it was incremental. Sometimes, like, if I was, like, really good at, like, if I stayed for long, if I went to, like, on Sunday, like, he'd ongezea me, like, a 2K, you know, just, like, here you go, buddy, have a good time.
And this would come at the end of every month.
Yeah, at the end of every month.
Yeah.
Like, so I have to also, like, sit down and then think to myself, like, you can't waste this cash. You can't waste this cash. So that's why we used to go to Molly's and all that. So you're not really spending and you're taking things like matatus and things like that. So you're able to really balance it out. So that's when I learned that thing for there's rice at home. Because I had never understood. I was like, right now, I don't know if there's rice at home.
Yeah.
When I was much younger, that's when I understood, like, eat in the house before you go out. Eat before you go. Pack lunch if you can. Like, that's when I really, really
You spend less money wherever it is that you're going.
Exactly.
Okay. And are you saving any of your money at this point? Any of these 12 Gs, are you saving any of it?
I was actually saving. That's when I opened, my mom actually, now the saving side of my brain comes now from my mom. My mom is always the person who will be like, okay, so out of that money, how much did you put in the bank? And I'd be like, first of all, that's none of your business. But immediately I'm giving her the report because it became a thing for, this is how much money I've put in the bank this month, mom. This is how much I have now. This is how much, this is where I'm at currently. I think that's how I learned how to properly save money now in my account.
Okay.
Intentionally.
So does that happen for, I guess, your 3-4 year period while you're in US? Are you essentially on a salary, saving a bit of money, spending a bit of it, going out every so often, all of that? Okay. So what happens after USIU in terms of, I guess, your proper first job? Do you still continue working for your dad? Do you go somewhere else?
No, now, first I had dreadlocks. That was the freedom of working for my father. I moved into my first paying job as with a KRA pin.
Yes.
Was at a bank. I was an intern. And I remember I was earning 6,321.
6,321.
So at this point, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I'd had some savings in the account. Let me tell you, I used to take this 6,321. That amount, thereabouts, but even given coins. Like, it was wild. That Friday, I would spend it.
The day you get it,
you spend it.
Yeah.
So there was that cabal. I don't know what that balance was because I think I had that security of I have bus fare to come to work. I'm eating at home because I still live with my folks. But that cash, it was the first time I ever told myself, like, just blow this thing. And this Kenyan government, this Kenyan economy, you're going to spend it. Like, if you go to a nice, proper club, you're going to spend that money in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So I think that's when I kind of got to understand, like, sometimes you just have to, like, let loose a little bit and enjoy. Was it reckless? Yes, very, very reckless. But I feel like it was kind of important for me to also, like, eat the fruits of my labor because I wasn't doing it properly when I was working for my dad. Yeah, because, I was on such a strict timeline also.
Right.
Yeah, so I was eating the fruits of my labor for the first time in a very long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and how long are you a bank intern for?
8 months.
8 months.
8 months, yeah. 8 months
for 8
before
months,
I moved to the tech company.
You're blowing...
Oh, my God. Like, if I think about it now and I do the 6 times, I'm like, oh, my God, I could have saved some cash. It could have been something.
Yeah.
But in that time, I was just like, I need to just enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved to the tech company.
Yeah, I moved to the tech company.
All right. So at the tech company, do you interview for the job? Do you apply for the job?
I did interview. I did interview for the job. It was a very grueling process. Fortunately, Nairobi is all about networks. So an uncle of mine knew the head of HR at the time.
It's an uncle who actually came through.
Yeah.
Not those.
Oh my God. The Kimia CV? Oh my God.
Yeah.
So now once I did the interview process, now that's how I managed to get into the company. But when you get into the company, now you're on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think of that job with so much I would never look back. I'd never look back, actually, because I feel like that job, when the job teaches you nothing.
What kind of role was it? Was it?
It was a data entry role.
A data entry role. Okay.
And so I felt like my brain was not being engaged.
Okay.
My gosh.
And what's the offer that they're putting on the table for data?
At the time, I was making 35K, which wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I'm still living.
Now you're getting taxed.
Yeah. Oh my God, I was getting taxed.
Yeah.
This was the biggest shock because
Gross
my
and net.
6,300 was not getting taxed at all. It was actually below.
Yeah.
So it's getting taxed.
Yeah.
And at this time, I'm like, okay, I'm earning some cash. It's not too bad. I can enjoy life a bit more. But my job is so draining that I felt like I was drinking away my salary more than... And then it wasn't like...
As a release.
As a release, yeah. Because at the bank, I was enjoying. Yeah. But then when I was in this new company, I was drinking my sorrows away. When you leave Jobo and you're like, someone says, let's go for a drink. And you're like, I need that drink. That's how my brain used to function. So the savings went down a little bit because I'm not putting as much into the account. I'm not really thinking about what the future holds because I'm just like, if I make it to work tomorrow, thank God for them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put in as much data as I can, and I'm gonna enjoy myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's how it was for me. Like when I joined that company, it was a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question: how many roles do you then, or how many different jobs do you then work between that tech company as a data entry to where you've made the decision now to be a full-time content creator?
I was an account director in a marketing firm. Then I was the head of events in actually two roles before I decided what I actually wanted to do was full-time content creation.
And what's the time span between that?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So
6 years actually.
Between the time we finish that and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go full-time.
Yeah, I was gonna go full-time.
Content creation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at the marketing firm, this I want to ask again based off of, I guess, the interviews that we've had here.
Yeah.
Because we had that if you're at head of digital within, I guess, our agency, you ought to be looking at anything between 300 to 500,000 as a monthly salary.
Yeah.
So if you're a marketing director, like what are the pay scales and different job roles that one would go through in order to be able to get there?
So I was account director,
Account
not
director.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
account
yeah,
director,
yeah. So I went through account exec first. Then I was promoted. So it wasn't too because because I was in a digital firm. So from you get in as an account exec. So basically your role is all about day-to-day management. And then now when you get into account director, now your job is all about business acquisition. So that time frame and working in an agency was wild because there's not really much that you don't do. Like on a day-to-day, there's a day where you'll sit down and you'll write copy for social media. There's a day where you're helping a designer put together artwork. And then there's a day where you're taking out clients for fancy business dinners and you're trying to kind of woo them. There's that balance.
Yeah.
But I think in that time frame, I had learned so much about how social media really works in terms of influencer management. So I learned how to be on the other side of the coin because at the time I was also doing content creation.
Right.
But it was very intriguing learning how to manage influencers day to day because you see, content creators have very different personalities. And I think for me, that was a really, really big passion. Like if I was to do anything right now, it would be to open an influencer agency where I kind of sit down with influencers, kind of help them run their content calendars. That would be the ideal future that I would hold. Actually, I'm going to watch this years to come. And I'm going to hold this to myself because I just feel like there are so many wasted opportunities that influencers have. And also, there are not many people who are taking care of influencers in this space that people are losing out on so much cash, like so much cash.
And when you say losing out,
yeah.
is it an opportunity that's missed? Is it fleecing or what?
It's fleecing. It's not knowing how to negotiate. It's
Could you give us an example?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can use myself because I've negotiated for a lot of people.
Right.
I can use myself. So for the longest time, I had a standard rate card, which I feel like all influencers do. And my friend Joy Candy had a look at my rate card, and she's just like, "Okay, babe, let's be serious." And I was like, "Babe, I'm not getting enough jobs." And she's like, "Yeah, let's be very serious. How are you negotiating when you go into a room? Do you just put your rate card there, then you just tell them, okay, this is it? Or do you then sit down and tell them, okay, but how long would you like us to have this campaign for? Because the rate can be able to go down. It's a bit more flexible. How many, and let's say if a company comes and tells you, we have 150,000, but your rate is 100,000 for a video, and then 50,000 for, like, let's say you charge 25K per Insta story.
Right.
Yeah. But if a company has 150 and they're asking you for so much, ask them, what can we be able to do in this, with this amount of money?
Yeah.
And how can I be able to give you value add
Yeah.
so you can be able to be of value for them for later?
Yeah.
Don't lose out on money. I feel like that's the one thing that people have that mentality for, because the money is there to be made. It's just all in how you negotiate with the company. Because that person you're negotiating is with me and you. It's just us,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a person who's had their morning coffee, they came to the office, they were in a good mood.
Yeah.
And in that day, you talk to them nice. The money is yours.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's in a sense how many people are losing out on so many opportunities that are present in the industry that they just let go of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and at this, if I go back to what we were talking about initially, so at this, at the company and at these roles, how much are they paying you? What are the amounts that they're looking at?
So I would say, because I was told I can say like a bracket. So I would say between 300 and 200. Yeah, 200 and 300. That was the right
That would be
amount.
the right amount.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
And what is it that you're seeing? Because I'm wondering your shift to now wanting to be a content creator, was that a financial push incentive, or was it a life purpose push incentive, or was it a mixture of both? I'm trying to figure out what the value proposition was for you as a content creator. You're like, oh yeah, if I go here, I'll definitely be able to make the amount of money that I'm making now and more, plus have X, 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 and X.
So, as we discussed actually at the beginning of the of the podcast, I'm very dedicated to anything that I do, which means that I overexert myself.
Okay.
So I picture having, at the last company where I was the head of events, I had maybe 3 long-term clients as an influencer. That time we were running this campaign at work for one of my clients, and it was one of the most grueling things I've ever done in my entire life. So we had back-to-back events for 3 weeks straight. I have deliverables that are on this side that need to be met, which means I need to sit down, create concepts, book shoot days with my production team. If it's things to do with outfits, if it's things to do with cocktails, if it's things to do with food, you have to do recipes. I have to jot all that down while still being able to be on the other side, manage influencers. It got to a point where I was just like, I'm actually going to lose my mind. So was it financial? I wouldn't say it was financial. I think it was more life purpose. Because I can actually say I'm a really good content creator. The way my brain thinks, the way my brain pivots when it comes to being given a brief by a client, I enjoy it for me very much, and I enjoy it for clients. I can actually say that with zero humility, because I've put in a lot of work in that. I loved my job very much. It was actually, for me, it was a very sad thing to let go of that job, because running events and influencer management for me, as I told you just now, it was bread and butter. I used to wake up and I'm just like, oh, we have an event. Can't wait to have the stresses. Can't wait to have a small cry in the afternoon because a tent didn't go up. And then when it's done, I'm just like,
Right.
like that was a good work day. because of chaos, obviously. Yeah, but I think it was just life purpose, and I was just like, let me take a chance on myself, and see like where this content creation space actually takes me.
So at the time when you're running these, I guess, 2 jobs,
Yeah.
how much money are you making from the content creator side when you're saying you have 3 long-term clients that you're working with? Like, how much money, would you be making that you're like, you know what, this is worth taking a shot on?
I had a really good month where they around maybe between 5. Money is such a tough thing to talk about. Barack. Okay, a good month, maybe like 5 to 7. Yeah, where there was a monthly income. Yeah.
And how many good months are there in the content creation space?
Let me tell you, our good months usually come in between September and December. When you see influencers, just pray for them. They are dying. They are going for events each and every day. They're trying to get more clients because Jan is silent. Like, if you're lucky if you have a client in January, like you're very lucky. But like September to December, that's when we buckle down and we try and clear our schedules just so we can be able to have like good shoot days. Make sure you have enough meetings with clients. Make sure you're meeting enough people to be able to make sure that you have enough money in your account. But so, September to December?
Yeah. So in your model as a content creator, is it then like you're making your killing in between September to December where you're like, okay, but then now when I got all of my money, this needs to get me between January and September next year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And me with my social investments, like my money is in bonds and in the most ridiculous places. And I'm like, stay there. I'm gonna come back for you, I promise. Right now we're going to work over there, but like stay here. So I think for me like that, like in months like January, Feb, March,
it can be rough.
Yeah, it can be rough. It can be rough. You lose clients. It's tough. I lost a really good client. A long-term client this year. And I think the number one thing about the content creation space is they don't owe you an explanation. When you're in the office, like my former HR told me, is like, okay, you're slacking and you're not enjoying work. So like, bye, I'm not cool. But like in the content creation space, they don't owe you anything. Like one day you've lost flavor. One day you're trending, and they let go of you.
The next day.
Exactly. So
and you see someone else with your campaign.
Exactly. Which I did. It was painful. My therapist really saw some. She saw some tears. Because as I told you, I really, really put my back into anything I do. So I don't know. The content creation space it's crazy. It's rewarding, but it's also a scary space to be in.
So estimation again, question or rather figure that I got, last person who sat in that chair talking about influencers and content creation was saying, if you're a good influencer, minimum amount you should be making in a year should be $1 million. Minimum amount you should be making in a year.
Yeah, I can agree with you.
You can agree with that statement. Where okay, now I want to get the other side of the equation. I have the minimum. And of course maximum is of course, can really get up there. But I want to say, in your estimation, I guess with your friends and your circle, like how much is a good content creator making? Between $1 million to what? Is it 7? Is it 10? Is it 12? And in fact, I'm asking because I don't want us to use for the top figure. I don't want to use an exception. And by exception I mean not like Nyashinsky who has like the Johnny Walker ads and things that are very clearly seen. I'm just talking about like a good average content creator.
Okay, so maybe I can give you an example without naming names. I've negotiated a brand ambassador's contract. And it was one of the lower sides. So it was $550 per month for 12 months. What's that mathematics?
That's about 6.
Exactly.
6 million.
And that's not the only thing that they were doing. The way we had negotiated the campaign was social media was the number one, being
Yeah.
a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
So everything else in terms of appearances, which would cost up to like 50K,
Yeah.
an appearance would give you deliverables for the amount of time you have to be there.
Yeah.
So that's 6 meter, and then 5. That it's
Yeah.
more like 7 million. I'd say 7 million, and that's from one brand. That's from one brand.
Yeah.
So it's possible for you to get upwards of the tens
Yeah.
if you're. I wouldn't say an exception if you're really high up there.
Yeah.
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 Because I feel like Nashinsky's are.
It's like another space.
It's another
And
space.
so even if I talk about this example without naming names,
Yeah.
what does it take, or what would it take to be able to be in that position, to be able to get that kind of deal?
Sometimes I think it's just right place, right time. Yeah. Right place, right time. I've never seen. The last campaign that I got was me being in a club, and someone was just like, "Oh my god, I'd really like to work with you," and I said, "That's fun." We had a shot, and then I gave her my number, and we ended up working together. That was it. Right place, right time. I think for me, that's always been how everything has always been. When I was negotiating that particular contract, it was right place, right time. I was in the same space. The marketing manager was there, and I sold. I was just like, "Do you think this would be a good idea?" And she was like, "Actually, I hadn't thought about it." And just that's how it happened. Yeah.
Okay. Question now, because now I guess we want to move away from like amount of money to, I guess, how you spend your money.
Yeah.
To like how you spend your money.
Yeah.
And what your money spending philosophy is. Yeah. And whether it changes based on the amount of money that you're making. If you have more money, does it change? If you have less money, does it change?
I think back to that scarcity thing. I don't think the amount of money I'm making changes how I spend. If anything, my best friend is usually extremely irritated because by the time I'm making a purchase, I've thought about it. I always say I'm not impulsive. I'm not this people who just do things on a whim.
Yeah.
I'll think critically about it.
Okay.
I think the things that sometimes the way this Galma thing is there. When I'm on a trip, I won't think as much about it because I had already budgeted about the trip. So if I told myself like, okay, Sabasi, this trip I'm gonna be able to spend, let's say 300,000. That money, I'm not coming back with a single shilling. Like I'm going to finish. But it's because I had already planned how I was going to budget, I'll spend it there when I go there, what I was going to buy. I already had an idea of it. I don't think it changes in terms of how much is coming into my account because at the end of the day, the one thing I think about first is putting money in an investment account. Like that is always the number one thing. Like I'm always on the lookout. I mean, I wish I caught onto the Bitcoin train, but like technology in me, I didn't understand it. But that's where my brain goes to initially when I see something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about even in terms of percentages,
Yeah.
right? So how much is going into an investment? How much is going to your expenses? Do you have a pro rata rate of my expenses need to be X amount of how much I'm earning? Yeah.
There's no science to it for me.
Yeah.
There's no science to it for me. Like sometimes I'll just tell myself, okay, this amount is going to go. Like I can see an amount. I have an Excel sheet on my laptop that is, it's intense. It's an intense Excel sheet because I have balanced out how much money is going in. I've even factored in things like black tax. Black tax. So all those things like come after I've put money aside.
Okay. So your philosophy is whatever amount of money comes, You just put money aside. How do you decide how much money you put aside? Is it feeling? Is it?
It's feeling, imagine.
Okay.
It's feeling.
So if you feel this month needs to be 100K, then it's 100K.
It's 100K.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 100K.
And by putting aside, is that now the investment? Is that the saving?
Straight into the investment.
Okay.
Yeah, because, hey, savings. Oh my God. As I told you, fixed deposit. Iliniona.
So investment in, now this is why you talk about the bonds
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you put that aside.
Yeah, because luckily I have like banker friends and investment friends who like would tell me like, oh, there's this thing you can be able to jump on. Then I'm like, okay, but like, is it like safe? Yeah, that's how my brain works. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then now the rest of the money you now sit with.
Yeah.
And then, so even that, is it based on feeling or is that now math?
Now that's off math.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's off math. Yeah. No, I usually know, I have a general idea of how much needs to go into what. Like the set, like the internets and the, you know, the car, you need to go fix the car, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to buy a new pair of shoes. That, and then there's the standard ones, and then there's everything else now that comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how then you work.
Yeah.
You work that.
Yeah.
Thing.
There's no science to it. Like I go with a lot of feeling, but it's how I've been able to kind of balance out and make myself feel okay. I'm doing something with my cash at the end of the month. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And two questions on that. One is, in the influencer space, I would assume that the payments are a little sporadic, aren't as, it's sort of regular monthly income. So then how do you then plan month to month?
So I have like lots of income streams, I would say, from doing events. It's not one of my most favorite things to do. I will be very honest, and I feel like many people are going to watch this and be very confused because I host a lot of parties. If I could, I would stop.
You do that for the money.
I do. To be very honest, and I'm being very honest about it. I think 2020 changed how I interacted with people in real life. My social anxiety went through the roof. So I'd get into a space and then I'm just like, I'm hyperventilating out of my mind. And this was coming from a time when I've hosted, maybe there's a time when, it's closed now, Deja Vu had maybe like close to 700 people inside there. I was comfortable. I was at the prime of my party days back then. Now I'm just like, whoo. Now to balance out the balance sheet, I'm just like, okay, let me do a brunch here. Let me do an event here. Do you guys have some MC gigs? Just because of that thing when an influencer payments comes in, there's one I have right now that hasn't come out for 5 months. And
it's 45 days or 30 days.
Yeah, and then like the person's due went on leave. And then they were like, oh, I'll text you when I come back. And I'm just like, I have this thing called rent and I need to pay the rent, but like, call me back, enjoy your leave, because you want Jobo for the next time.
Right.
So you can't be all aggressive. But, just having those multiple sources of income have been a great help. Yeah. But if I didn't also save and if I didn't see how money works, like I think I'd drown.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's sort of like your money philosophy in that sense, right? Okay. I have there's one other question, but it has gone. It has gone. So I'll continue on this line of I guess just your money journey as a whole. I want to talk about, or I want you to talk to us about I guess your lowest money moment. Your lowest money moment in the X years of life that you've had.
Damn, that being in snow cream with 30,000, man.
That was your lowest. That was your lowest money.
Rent. I have bills. I have steamer to pay for. Like, I honestly, the fact that I ate ice cream that day, like, I pass snow cream sometimes, and I'm just like, tumetoka mbali, babe. Hey, kwa sawa lakini. That moment for me, and the funny thing is, I don't know if I mentioned this, the teller at the bank when I went was a friend of mine. Actually, the way the world works, it's so wild. He is my friend's fiance. Now, And I remember one time, like maybe like a year after, we were chilling at a barbecue, and I told him, I was like, oh, I remember that time when I came to the bank, and he's just like, yeah. He's like, yeah, that day you were a bit down. And I was like, yeah, that was the last money that I had, like last cash, like completely. And he told me, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, like I didn't have any more money. I didn't have any more investments. I didn't have any savings. That was number last before. And I could say God, like, gave me Jobo again and got me back into the influencer space, etc. That was a low moment. Yeah. Think about it now. Can get some balancing tears, but I'm not going to cry on the internet.
Okay. And I want to ask, and I want to ask this from a practical point of view, because sometimes I feel like when people talk about whether it's coming up from low moments or the process of doing things, it's like they make it a bit too scientific and processy in like, keep the faith and trust. But I want to ask, like, practically, like, how do you move from that? I know you talked about having a conversation with your friend, but practically, so you have 30K, how do you meet your rent that month? How do you meet your rent for the next month? And how do you actually move from where you are at that point into saying, okay, now I'm rebuilding?
Literally, that 30K is the one that pushed me for that month. That week is when I got my first influencer gig. That was sufficient for my month to month, because it was like a long-term contract. Okay. I mean, I don't think there was a tipping point for me. Like, it was at the end. I was at the end, and then like now it's just like, okay, so like, do we go back to mom's house? Because my mom told me, come home, just come home. And I was just like, no, there must be a way out of this. That month, things changed. But it wasn't that I was swimming in wealth. I was not. It was enough to pay my rent, like prorated rent. Because now,
it was,
we were back to, I want to say, real life, where now like landlords are just like, okay, Sabasi, pay something. Because you see, at the end of the day, you still have things like water bills, you still have steamer, you have to eat. At that time, I didn't even have a house manager. I was the house manager. I was the auntie in the house. So
are you a washing machine, or you're the one who's...
Oh, what? Cleaning everything.
It's you who's doing everything.
No, I had somebody who helped me with washing clothes. I have trauma from high school. Oh,
okay.
There's one thing I'm not going to do is wash clothes.
Okay.
So I had somebody to help me with that at least. But fortunately, I think that's really how I got out of that space. Because... But for me, I wasn't embarrassed to move back home. I don't think I was. I wasn't going to move in with a friend and infringe on their space, because we are all going through COVID together, But fortunately, my mom was just like, things are tough, Sana, come home. Yeah, come home. Yeah.
And what are you working towards now? I guess now that you're, now in a full-time content creation space. I mean, and if I'm to specifically... have it in a financial sense, like, what are you working towards now and hoping to achieve in the content creator space?
Man, as I told you, I think for me as a content creator, I want to help other content creators. I think for me that's the number one thing. I always say, well, somebody the other day called me Pedioma Good Vibes, and I just thought to myself, like, that's such a great title to give somebody who spreads positivity on the internet. Because I feel like that's a lot of what I do on the internet. But I feel like so many people don't know where to start or don't know what to do on the, like, with the content creator space, that I'd love to help. Obviously, with money coming into my pocket. But for me, I think that's one way I'd love to do it. But obviously having things like long-term clients, it's always a plus. I think that's the goal for every influencer, to have a contract given to you, 1 year contract, and told, this is every month, your pocket. All you need to do is just think about the concept, give us something cute, look nice, feel great, and move on. So I think that's the short-term goal, but my long-term goal, because I always say this, like, I don't think social media is forever. I don't think I want to be dancing on TikTok in my 40s. Not at all. Currently, I can't even catch a dance. so I'm already behind.
Yeah.
I'm already behind on
Yeah.
everybody else's nanny
Yeah.
schedule. But yeah, I think that's the pivot that I'd want for my career, to kind of get back into a space where I can be able to help people come up with concepts, build their profiles, build a brand online. Because I mean, I did it for a very long time, but that's kind of the direction that I'd typically want to go.
Okay.
But to do that, I must be able to show you what my page looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you can't believe me if I tell you I'm a good footballer. Okay,
Yeah.
so great. But like, can you pay better? You know, like you need to actually show me.
Right.
So I want to create great, amazing, wholesome content on my platform, even when it's not paid content. So when somebody sees my page and I'm just like, can I help you manage yourself? They'll say yes. That's my goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a piggyback off of that one,
Yeah.
based off the possible business proposition for that is, and if I'm to refer to our conversation earlier on the long-term contract that your unnamed person got,
Yeah.
how many of those exist in the market and in your experience, and what would the average long-term contract financially or fiduciary, what would that amount look like?
They're not many.
Yeah.
I'll be very honest. They're not many. Those opportunities they're very far and they're spread. What's that word? Far
and few between. Yeah.
My brain did.
Yeah.
Because you see, I still think that this country has not understood they're slowly understanding it, the benefit of social media influencers and content creators. I think many at times, people who are brand ambassadors are not content creators. If we'll take an example, Nyashinsky as the brand ambassador for Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a content creator. I think he's a great name for the brand.
A great
And
musician.
I think that is a conversation that is not had enough with brand managers in terms of, don't make him do a TikTok. His association to who you are is really the main connection that you need to your public. And many people don't understand that. Now, you see, the conversation that we had even with the brand ambassador that we had gotten was, oh no, we want them to start posting some things on and when they wake up in the morning, they should show the product. And I'm like, you've lost the plot already. You've actually lost the plot. So for them now to kind of give people that power of being the brand ambassador, that understanding, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a very, very long time for many companies to actually just go to their way and say like, okay, we trust you enough. You're our person. Yeah. But when the jobs are there, people are making sweet money. People are making a lot of cash, and it's great. Yeah.
Okay, so then what would be the average? Because I mean, there's a far and few between. Average deal be worth what? 200 Gs, 300 Gs?
No, it's little. I'd say maybe like between 5 to a million. Yeah. And I think maybe that's even on the lower side right now, given inflation.
Yeah.
I think people are earning a lot more because like many more companies are coming from outside and they have bigger budgets.
Yeah.
So I'd say maybe between 500 to a million bob to be a brand ambassador. And maybe that's on the lower side if I'm entirely honest. Yeah.
Okay. Last question as we wind up.
Yeah.
What would failure look like for you, financially speaking, 10 years from now, if you have failed? What has happened?
Have given me another existential crisis. Oh my God. If I'm doing a TikTok at 40. To be very honest, I don't want to dance on the internet at the age of 40. But I think for me, it would be not being able to actualize this dream that I have of having this kind of digital agency. I think for me, that's where I'd want to go and pivot. I want to see great content out there. I enjoy seeing great content, and I feel like there's so much that people have to give, but they don't have the space to do it in. For me, that would be a success. If I'm not able to achieve that, I feel like that would be a failure for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also like to remind people also that you can be able to reinvent yourself as many times as you can.
Yeah.
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 I think that's something I always want to remind myself. But if I'm not able to open that agency, I'll be like, oh, yeah.
Didn't quite.
Yeah. I need to watch this back and be like, build yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And financially speaking, is there like a figure that you're working towards? Is there like something that you're like, you know what, if I get $1 billion or 2 billion or 3 billion, whatever the case is like, then I have achieved success?
That's a tough question. So, I don't know if you know this, but this is my merchandise brand. Yeah.
Yes.
We were initially in debt. And my best friend and business partner came on board, helped me clear that out. Right. Because I'd go to the club and somebody would tell me, I want this. And I'm like, cool, okay, send the money to my account. And I'd eat it. so on Monday, I was just there like, who gave me an order? I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. How we are still alive, to be very honest, it's all thanks to her when she came in. Because I'm marketing, she's operations. And sometimes we sit down and we're just like, okay, Sabasi, what is our financial goal for the year? What are we looking to make? Are we looking to make 500,000 on just profit alone? And I think that's always been that answer for how much I would actually see as a success is always such a tough question, because I'm just like, in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, like, if we passed even by 100K from 2 months from before, we've already done a bigger job. I think I take away that pressure for myself a lot. But if there was a figure, I mean, I'd say like maybe like 900 million. I feel like I'd be comfortable with 900 million, just, you know, just chilling with some, I don't know.
Something to think about, eh?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah.
I guess the next time we have you on, we'll find out what the answer is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But that was that. I mean, anything else you want to add? Anything, whether it's, I don't know, advice, something for content creators, influencers, possibly. No pressure.
Maybe the advice I can give content creators is always pivot. Like, if you see something is not working, pivot. Yeah. Change it. Like, there's nothing holding you down to a particular situation. If you can and it's not working, change it. Yeah. I think that's the number one thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was JayTakeAPic. I have enjoyed that conversation, learned a couple of things about the influencer content creation space, and Jay is very interesting money model, partly based on feelings and partly based on science. But yeah, that was a good episode. I really enjoyed that. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know who you want to see next on Financially Incorrect, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.